Hello and welcome to the Monday Total Soccer Show. My name is Daryl Grove and I'm joined by a man who never celebrates too hard. His name is Taylor Rockwell. Hello.
Hello. Certainly not fist bumps in front of the opposition bench.
Oh yeah. All right, it's our weekend review. It's our newfangled weekend review where we watch 3 games and get relatively in-depth on each one. So you can expect about 10 minutes or more on Chelsea, Manchester United, Barcelona, Sevilla, the Milan derby, and then a quick roundup of anything else that caught our eyes. Yes. All right, let's start with Chelsea, Man United, and, as I hinted at the intro, let's get the drama out of the way first. All right, so what happened, Taylor? What was weirdly the big story that wasn't the soccer after this game?
It was the story surrounding Chelsea's equalizer when they made it 2-2, that the Chelsea bench erupted in celebrations.
Which is fine.
Yeah, one assistant basically ran by, kind of did a fist pump in front of Jose Mourinho. Mourinho didn't seem to notice it. He did
Marco Ianni was his name.
Thank you, Marco Ianni. He then did another celebration on the way back. That one definitely caught the attention of Jose Mourinho, who jumped out of his seat.
Yep.
A little bit of a scuffle, a little bit of a brouhaha, but it is over now, according to Jose Mourinho.
It is, and actually, I quite like how this has ended up.
Yep.
Right? So, Ianni definitely, it wasn't good what he did. There's no point celebrating in front of the opposition coach like that. Mourinho got very aggro. There wasn't an actual fight because people put themselves, the good defensive wall was formed. Then everybody apologised afterwards and everything's good.
Yeah.
I actually like it. I think that's the way, maybe that's the way soccer should be. Like passion in the moment.
Yeah.
No actual fights happen. Everybody shakes hands afterwards. Then we just get on with it.
Yeah. I mean, and I think it was I apologized, or he apologized, sorry apologized, and I apologized too, so it's over, said Mourinho.
I think we've all missed an opportunity to say sorry, said sorry.
There we go.
But but yes, all is good.
Yeah.
So, all right, that out of the way,
Yeah.
Can we talk soccer?
Sure.
Because this was actually a very good game of soccer.
Now, I think I know what you mean, but why do you begin with actually?
Because so much of the drama was focused on the Mourinho thing. Yeah, I guess that's the only reason.
Okay. I wasn't sure if it was that or if it was like you expected it to be a very dull 0-0 game and that there were 4 goals in it, made it a little bit more exciting.
Anytime a Mourinho Manchester United team goes away against a team that's doing well, it's very possible that we get a very dull game, right? And we absolutely did not, which is a surprise because Mourinho, especially in the first half, or let's say Manchester United, especially in the first half, did all the defensive things. To give you a quick list off the top of my head, I saw Juan Mata sort of playing as an attacking midfielder, but actually trying to man-mark Jorginho to take him out of the game for Chelsea. I saw Marcus Rashford, the flying winger, attacker, striker, essentially playing extra right-back to double cover for Alonso and Eden Hazard, so Ashley Young was never 2-on-1. I saw lots of little things like that. So this could have been a game where Manchester United shut everything down and everything got really dull.
Right. Except for the fact that they didn't shut it down, with all that said.
And I think that's the reason. I think Rudiger's goal is the thing that opens this game up because it means that Manchester United game plan to be a bit more cautious, a bit more conservative, no longer works when you're 1-0 down. Yeah. So well done, Rudiger. Or well done, Pogba, for opening this game.
I mean, that's the big question, right? And I think maybe that explains some of the emotional response when this goal goes in from Paul Pogba. I think part of it is maybe that he's at fault, but maybe it's also the case that he's fully aware that they've been executing this game plan. It seems to be working. It seems to be frustrating Chelsea. So then to give away a set-piece goal on an unmarked header, not necessarily ideal, certainly not in the game plan.
So should we talk through it then? So the way this is, Paul Pogba is marking Rudiger on a Chelsea corner kick. David Luiz is being marked by Victor Lindelof. And somehow Paul Pogba manages to get himself screened by Luiz and Lindelof, even though neither of them really move all that much. Yeah. Right? So I'm not convinced that any active measures against Pogba were taken. I almost think he got distracted.
Yeah, I think that's exemplified by the fact that right as the corner is being taken, Pogba is looking at where he thinks Rudiger is going to run and not looking at Rudiger. So when he looks back, Rudiger's already started to run, and then Pogba has to try to catch up. And then he has to kind of go around Lindelof. But again, I don't think there was any sort of shove from David Luiz that put Lindelof off. I don't think Lindelof had been warned about anything. I think it was just a case that Paul Pogba lost his man and didn't want to be at fault.
It's really weird, right? Is it almost like Pogba was aware that the screen is a thing that might happen? Yeah. So Luiz may have picked off Pogba to make space for Rudiger to run. But in being aware of it, Pogba made it happen?
Yeah. Well, I think he was I think it can be one of those strange situations in which, like, Pogba was saying, hey, he's probably going to try to screen me, and as he was explaining that to Lindelof, the play happened and he was screened. And so then I think maybe, again, that's the other aspect of the frustration is he knew it was coming, but in trying to prepare for it, it happened already. Yeah. And so I think those two things of he kind of knew there was going to be a problem but was powerless to stop it, or I think he would say powerless to stop it, and then on top of that it kind of led to or forced a change in United's game plan because it had been working. Those two things, I think, is why he hopped up and down and yelled.
What did he yell at Lindelof? It seemed to me he was
yelled,
gesticulating.
"You blocked me," apparently.
But that's not true.
Yeah.
So he's just trying to like maybe just take his frustrations out on the nearest person. So
I think so. But I think in that moment, if you are Paul Pogba, I understand. I'm not saying I agree. I'm saying I understand why in that moment he is saying, like, hey, he's going to try to block me, so don't let him block me. And then that sequence happens. I understand why in his mind, Paul Pogba, he thinks, oh, this is exactly what I said was going to happen. And it happened anyway, forgetting that it happened because he didn't run with Rudiger.
And then from that point on, Chelsea were very much, I'd say, feeling themselves. Yeah. You saw a lot of the classic Sarri ball, right? A lot of very short, fast passes, like the ball pinging around a lot. I saw one thing I really liked tactically was Kovacic. He's like left centre mid of the three, right? But he would drift very much over to the left wing. And the way that Man United tried to stop any overloads happening on that Eden Hazard side, so Hazard being marked by Young, and Alonso, the overlapping left back, being marked by Rashford, you add Kovacic to it, and suddenly it all gets very confusing because you've got a sort of 3 versus 2 situation. Yeah. So I think Chelsea did a good job of taking advantage of the focus that was put on Eden Hazard, overloading that side. But they didn't really break through Man United. I think they moved the ball around very prettily. I quite enjoyed seeing the movement. I was like a cat following the ball around the screen. But no more Chelsea like really dangerous chances or goals in that first half.
I mean, my dog follows the ball around. I don't know about cats. I can't speak to cats.
Cats and dogs can do it equally well.
Okay, all right. I'm not sure that's true, but fine. So then what do you think explains the difference in the game? What do you think explains the difference from the first half to the second half and United going up 2 goals?
Yeah, because they do, right? They scored 2 goals in the second half. There's the late equaliser from Ross Barkley, which makes things even, but it's definitely Man United's half, the second half. One thing I think is maybe because they're 1 goal down, I don't know what was said at half time, but I think it was more. It could be just either Mourinho saying to players or the players having a general consensus of let's take more risks. Yeah. Let's take more risks. And I always think the best example I can give you of Man United players taking more risks is Luke Shaw.
Okay.
So the goal that they concede in the first half, the corner kick that Rudiger scores, is given away by Luke Shaw because the ball comes across the box. Luke Shaw has Willian on his back. And he just thinks, all right, safety first. I'm just going to literally pass it over the end line, give away a corner kick rather than take any risks.
And quick addendum to that would be that I remember that sequence, and I remember everybody high-fiving him for making a smart choice. So because I was with you, I was like, is that like couldn't you have put that up for a throw-in maybe?
Yeah.
And then everybody was like high five, and I thought, okay, I guess that's what he's been told to do.
So I think that's the game plan, right? But then second half, in the build-up to the equaliser, the Martial goal, you see a very similar situation. The ball comes across the box. I think it's Hazard that plays it. Luke Shaw has Willian again coming towards him. And instead of putting it behind for a corner kick at 1-0 down, Shaw takes a really risky touch to like do a quick fake, put the ball out left, chase it, and suddenly open space for himself at left back. Then the ball can go up the field. And I think it's like a whole sequence later because I think there's a cross comes in, then it's cleared out. But eventually it ends with that Martial goal.
It does.
So I think that's a really good example of players just being freer or being having no choice but to take more risks and chase the game.
Yeah. One quick note on that goal that I wanted to get to, because I would agree with everything you said. When you mentioned that it was cleared out by Marcos Alonso's sort of like semi-diving header. I think that's the first clearance. And then he stays on the ground, and I, for the life of me, cannot figure out what he's doing. Because there was no head-to-head collision. There wasn't a shove in the back. He didn't take any blow that I could see, and it wasn't that bad of a header. It wasn't like he mishit it. So all I can think is that he knew he didn't head it that far clear and just thought, if I stay down, maybe they'll stop play. That's all I can figure because he stays down like he is...
Clever if it had worked.
Which it didn't. And he stays down like he is unconscious until Anthony Martial scores the volley. And more or less literally volleys it over Marcos Alonso. Like, he settles it and hits it as Alonso's like under his feet.
Credit to Martial for the focus. I'll be honest, maybe I have too much empathy. I would struggle to do that. I would struggle to volley it over a man who's holding his own head.
Yeah. So, Well, he wasn't, though. That's the thing, is he was just like curled up in a ball, sort of laying there motionless. And then only when the ball goes in does he sort of like roll over and do the whole like, oh, I was hurt for real bad, though. For real bad, guys. That's why I had to stay down. So I was very confused by what Marcos Alonso was doing.
Same here, and it definitely didn't help.
It did not help, no.
I guess another example of what Man United did differently is that Martial was in the box to score that equaliser. He wasn't playing extra left back in the same way that to cover Azpilicueta, in the same way that Marcus Rashford was playing extra right back in the first half. I think both those guys had more freedom. They still did the marking, right? But they still had more freedom when Man United went forward to really, I think, stretch and go forward far up the field. And I saw a lot of Paul Pogba receiving the ball in the middle. He would beat a man, and then he would have Martial to his left, Rashford to his right. He would have targets to hit those counter-attacking through balls too. And I think that was a big part of the change-up for United. I actually think Pogba, even though he has no major role, I don't think, in either of the goals, I think he was magnificent in the second half. He was the Pogba that I love to watch, counter-attacking Pogba, making things happen on the break.
Yeah, and I think he exemplifies the change, as does, in my opinion, Juan Mata, who I think you look at both goals. That first goal, it comes about from Mata, he gets a volley that's saved, and then in the same motion, he chips it back across goal.
Yeah.
That one's headed clear, then it comes back in from Martial.
Yep.
For the second goal, obviously...
Rather than just marking Jorginho the whole time.
Yeah, exactly. And then for the second goal, he's the one who beats David Luiz to the ball to kind of keep it going down the sideline to play it in for the go-ahead goal.
Yeah, I really like that play
goal, I
for
guess.
some reason.
Yeah.
That's a little guy beating a big guy.
True, number one. That's always lovely. Two, I think it exemplifies the other aspect that changed for me between United's first half and their second half, which was, again, just getting forward. They were trying to get numbers in the box. They were trying to get bodies in the box. It wasn't just about, let's make sure we're marked up and then maybe we can send one or two. You had 3 and 4 and 5 players routinely crashing the box, and I think that made the difference because, if nothing else, I think Chelsea just weren't used to United doing that, and it takes a little bit of time to recognize that things are shifting.
I've got a question for you on that Martial goal that puts them 2-1 up. Did he mean that first touch?
No. 100% no.
So I watched this with my friend Hugh, who was in town, and he was convinced it was a deliberate sort of just poke it ahead of myself to get around, I believe, Azpilicueta to make some space to shoot.
What do you say?
No. I don't think it was as deliberate as it looks. Yeah,
he puts his foot. He tries to put his foot,
and it doesn't look very deliberate.
It does not. He tries to put his foot on the ball, is what I saw.
You think you shouldn't trap it?
I mean, I don't know.
Shouldn't have Rose Lavelle it?
Because that could be. I don't think that does anything though in that sequence. Like if you just put your foot on it, you kind of kill your momentum, and then you have to take another touch. So that would then lean the argument towards, he must have been trying to play it out in front. But just the fact of how scrambly he looks when he's like, it's a little too far. And even the commentator, I think I saw this in 3 different places with 3 different commentators, and all of them sort of glossed over that to focus on the finish, which was an excellent finish. Yeah. But that touch, I am inclined to say it was an accidental touch, and he made the best of a situation that he kind of created for himself.
I guess that's the most praiseworthy way of putting it, right? Yeah. He made the best of a bad situation that he created.
Then again, he was a lovely gentleman, and I don't want to disagree with him. So maybe he was right.
Just because he's polite doesn't mean he's right.
There you go.
Yeah. All right, but it finishes
it does.
2-2. England hero Ross Barkley off the bench. He is in the box too. I actually can't remember the sequence. Is it Luis header off the post? Then Rudiger's striker is saved, and then Ross Barkley's there to actually put in a very sort of smart, calm, confident
There's
finish.
Actually again.
Yeah, there it is.
You have little faith in English teams and English players, it seems. Actually a good finish.
From a Manchester United defensive perspective, how does this goal happen? How is it allowed to happen?
Okay. I mean, I'm being too micro or too negative, but I do think there were aspects of this game that exemplified to me why Jose Mourinho wants new center backs. Because I wouldn't put the Pogba losing Rudiger on Lindelof at all, but I did see moments...
Pogba tried and it didn't stick.
Yeah, exactly. I did see moments from Lindelof. There's the wide-open David Luiz header that I think he flashes just wide off of a free kick, and he runs right around Lindelof, who doesn't seem to know what he's supposed to do, and it felt like Lindelof was kind of routinely reacting to plays or not sure how to react, and in contrast, it felt like Chris Smalling was routinely sort of trying to make plays, charging out of the back in that left space, and in this sequence...
But isn't that supposed to be the partnership? I think is that's maybe the theory of the working partnership is Smalling is the guy that steps high and wins things, and Lindelof is the guy that cleans up anything that comes through. Right?
So theoretically, yes, that can work. That can be fine. What stuck out to me is that it didn't feel like there was much communication between the two. So if Lindelof was playing left center back and he was kind of standing left center, and Chris Smalling sprinted out towards left center to make a play, you never saw Lindelof slide over. You didn't see any communication. And so it felt like it was a little bit of Smalling's going to do what Smalling's going to do, and Lindelof's going to stay home because he doesn't want to make a mistake. But it didn't feel like that sort of harmonious relationship of one goes, one stays, one slides over, the other slides back. It didn't feel like they had that working what's the word I'm looking for here?
Partnership, relationship.
Thank you, relationship. Whew, I dropped that word. It's early. All of that is to say, though, that I think if you know that Chris Smalling is going to be aggressive, trying to step to the ball, you can use that to your advantage. And for Chelsea's equalizer, when that ball comes in, he is trying to make a play on the ball. I think Chris Smalling thinks, I can just flick this one clear. I can get ahead to it. David Luiz is coming in full force. Seems like he's going to have a better angle on it, but the reason why he definitely has a better angle on it is because Olivier Giroud reads the situation very quickly and just steps back into Smalling and completely stops him from getting to that ball. Maybe it's a foul.
That's a screen.
Yeah.
That's how you screen Paul Pogba.
But in that, exactly. But in that scrum, in that moment, you're never going to get that call if you're Chris Smalling because it looks like Giroud's trying to make a play, but he is so clearly bodying off Chris Smalling.
I kind of think it should have been a free kick.
Maybe. I mean, it's probably a foul, but I don't think you're going to see that given because then you get into the whole, if there's any contact in the box, is it always given? And you can make an argument that maybe Giroud is trying to get himself in a position to do a backwards header or something, and so you could justify it that way. All that is just to say that I think it was not necessarily game planned, but it exemplified Chris Smalling just trying to go get the ball, and if he doesn't get the ball, then there are big problems because suddenly you've got a hole in the middle.
I want to give more credit to Giroud than I want to discredit Chris Smalling. Sure. I just think that's such a smart play that makes something happen late in the game. It was
You'll note it has 3 stars because I wanted to give credit to Olivier Giroud as well.
And to me, the debate of Giroud or Morata, if there even was a debate, is eternally settled now.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was settled when there were moments in this game when you could see, specifically Eden Hazard, not want to give the ball to Alvaro Morata in scoring positions. And I don't mean that as a conspiracy. I mean there were times when Morata was on and the 1-2 was on, and you could see sort of Hazard look at him and then check away and just be like, maybe I'll just keep dribbling this ball.
Really?
Maybe I'll play it wide.
I didn't notice that. I'll believe you if you said
it. Felt like they didn't trust his scoring ability in the box, or they didn't trust his decision making. Maybe they didn't expect to get that ball back, and so they being Hazard and Willian. I saw that on a couple of occasions. It just felt like maybe that was the safe pass. And you've done that, right? Where you've played with a person who maybe you don't think you're going to get the ball back from, and so you think, maybe I'll pass to this person instead. It was just sort of that little swivel of the hips to play a ball in the opposite direction.
Well, I noticed Morata was okay at playing passes and connecting play when he came a little deeper.
Yeah.
Especially in the first half, maybe when Chelsea were passing but not penetrating. But that's just part of the Chelsea game, right? Is to keep moving the ball around. So it's more like in the box he wasn't as incisive and decisive.
Yeah. Incisive and decisive. Yeah. But I think you're right, though. So then it's Rudiger. David De Gea does very well. But then, Ross Barkley could have skied that one. He could have hit it into a player.
Certainly could.
He scored that goal.
I really thought it would be Ruben Loftus-Cheek who was challenging to be in that midfield 3. It's Ross Barkley is snapping at Kovacic's heels.
Oh, boy.
Anything else to add on this game before we move on?
No, I think that's all of the notes that I had for this one.
Let's say we do, right? We just read out all your notes.
Yes. I have my things I want to talk about list, and I had 5 of them, and they have all have check marks next to them.
Lovely.
So we're good.
Good job then. Good teamwork. Good teamwork here.
See? More than Smalling and Lindelof.
Yeah. So Man United lost their lead, but perhaps they didn't have to.
Oh, boy.
And just like with today's sponsor,
I see what's happening.
Today's show is sponsored by Hims. 66% of men lose their hair by age 35, but they don't have to.
Hims connects you with real doctors and medical-grade solutions to treat hair loss. They offer well-known generic equivalents to name-brand prescriptions to help you keep your hair, if not your head, if you're the Man United bench.
I think maybe Iani was a possible someone who should have looked into Hims earlier.
I'm just saying, he didn't have much hair up there.
Yeah.
He starts antagonizing people. Maybe if he'd had some Hims treatment, suddenly he's not so antagonistic.
Yeah, exactly. So he wouldn't need to make such a spectacle of himself. So the other thing is with this, you don't have to go to the doctor and talk about your hair loss. There's no in-person visit. You go to forhims.com/total soccer, and there's a whole sort of you just do the questions online. A doctor reviews it and then prescribes the product for you.
Yeah, no waiting room, no awkward in-person doctor visits. You don't have to sit across there halfway reading a magazine while you see a bunch of other men in their 30s looking around being like, I know why you're all here. I know what we're all doing here. I know what we're all doing here. And there's a reason why, because 66% of men lose their hair by the age of 35.
So if you want to get a trial month of Hims for just $5 while supplies last, you go to forhims.com/total soccer. That's forhims.com/total soccer. The website again, Taylor, is
forhims.com/total soccer.
There you go. Thank you to For Hims for sponsoring today's show. The link will be in the show notes if you want to click it.
Thank you to Hims for sponsoring today's episode. Dale Grove, where should we go next?
Let's go to Catalonia, where Barcelona beat Sevilla.
I believe you'll find it at Barcelona. If we're going to Catalonia.
Beat Sevilla 4-2.
Sevilla. No, I'm done now.
I really enjoyed this game.
As did I.
I'm really glad we watched this. For those who don't know, Sevilla were top of La Liga at the start of the weekend. This was a big, big win for Barcelona.
It sure was. And it started off, I'm going to say, in emphatic fashion.
2 minutes in, right?
Yep. Felipe Coutinho.
It was like a U.S. Women's National Team CONCACAF championship game.
It really was. It felt that way. And it felt like it could have been much, much worse. Messi scores the second, but then Messi gets injured. That seems like it slowed it down a little bit. That said, Barcelona still went up 3-1. There we go, 3-0. Yeah.
But actually, do you agree with me that if Messi... So the other big news from this is that Messi has fractured his arm, right? So he could be out for a little while, including next week's El Clasico. Yeah. If Messi hadn't got injured, I felt like Barcelona were going to keep rolling through this game and run up the score, right?
I think so. I definitely say that not just because it's Leo Messi and not just because he is capable of scoring at any given moment, and this game exemplified that, but because I think they're just on another level, and that really was clear to me once he came off and Ousmane Dembele came on.
Same.
Dembele is a world-class player. He is clearly very good. He's a very good player. But you could see the difference that him just not being as in sync. Suarez had a couple different moments once Dembele came on where he played a ball in that looked like a bad pass from Suarez, and we saw Suarez get very angry about it. And I think in watching it again, it's because Messi would have been on the run. Messi would have been moving. He would have known exactly what Suarez was going to do at any given moment, and they have that relationship. And so I think that's where once you lose Leo Messi, it becomes more of a very good attacking team and a very talented team, but they don't have that ethereal, out-of-this-world quality of where did that come from? How did that possibly turn into a goal? Oh, because of Leo Messi.
So let's talk about that then, because weirdly, even though Messi was only in this game for 15 minutes, he's involved in 2 goals, right? Heavily involved in setting up one, actually scores the second. In a weird way, he had the biggest influence on this game in just the 15 minutes he was there. So I want to talk about what happened while he was there, and how Sevilla essentially failed to handle him.
Yeah, and I think
they tried real hard, but they failed.
They did, and I think you said this to me via text because you watched this game I think earlier than I did. That you said I think they're all scared of Messi.
Yes,
and
that came out in different ways.
That's the key thing, right? Is because when I hear scared, I think, oh, they're all backing off. Nobody wants to commit. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that was necessarily the case for the first goal. But in talking with you, I realized, scared can be 2 different things.
Mm-hmm. So I would phrase it as, for the first goal, they overcommit to Messi, and that allows Coutinho to score. For the second goal, or specifically Sergio Gomez, undercommits to Messi because he's really just scared to go, backs off too much, scared to go one-on-one with him.
Yep.
So can we go first goal first?
Let's do it.
Just to talk through it, this all starts with Semedo.
Mm-hmm.
The right-back Semedo, who is someone I always wondered, is he really good enough to play for Barcelona? After watching this, I'm pretty sure he is, because Sevilla had their shape, right? They played essentially a 5-3-2. It looked reasonably well organised for the first minute, but Semedo broke it open by just beating a man. I can't remember if it's Vasquez, I think.
It is Franco Vasquez.
It's Franco Vasquez. He just gives him a little, I'm going this way, not really, I'm going that way. He drives infield. That's the thing, right? He dribbles infield.
He gets down the line, and then he drives infield, so it sort of is like you pull people over, but then he cuts inside and creates that kind of overload in the middle.
Yep.
Lays it off to Suarez. Suarez gives it back to Messi, but it's that little combination that absolutely starts with Semedo. And sometimes you can't just move that ball around slowly and find your passes and do tiki-taka. Sometimes it's got to be a sort of blunt instrument run, get the ball in there, and now you've got numbers and the ball retained, and suddenly there are problems.
And the problem to me is Messi has the ball at the top of the box, and 2 centre-backs come charging at Leo Messi.
They sure do.
Right? So there's Kjaer and Carrico. Carrico, is that how you pronounce it? Number 6.
Sure.
They both step out of the back and come charging towards Messi because I think either they've got instructions or they've got in their head, it's Leo Messi, we've got to close him down. It's Leo Messi, we've got to close him down. But Carrico specifically, when he comes charging at Messi, it leaves Felipe Coutinho wide open.
Yep.
So you'll see it's Jesus Navas, the right wing back, who will get posterized in a way because he's the one that ends up behind Coutinho as Coutinho shoots. But he's just trying to come back and cover for Carrico, who's just like wildly stepped out to try and close down Leo Messi.
Yeah, and I think the wildly is the key part there as well, because I think we both played in those games. I know you're going to do your Daryl sarcasm, like that doesn't ring a bell.
I'm just going to sip my coffee.
But we've both played in those games where there's like one player on the opposition team who's very good, who clearly is their kind of number 10, their creator, and there is that inclination to like, I'm going to like step to them, I'm going to win that ball, I'm going to let them know like they can't dribble that way. But sometimes when you do that, because you're so focused, or the royal you, not you, Daryl, are so focused on like, I'm going to make a play, that you go charging at that person. But if that person is good and they're skillful on the ball, they're going to see that and just wait for you to be sort of reckless or charging too much, and then they're just going to pass it right by you. And I think that's exactly what happens on this, is everybody's so focused on, like, I'm not going to be the one that stands off Messi, that he just very calmly is like, okay, but you're both running, and there's a 1 foot gap, and into that 1 foot gap I will play the ball.
And doesn't he put the ball between Kjaer and Carrico? So the two centre-backs that charge at him, he puts it between them and into Coutinho's feet. I know it's very easy to just find new things to praise about Leo Messi. It's kind of the joy of watching him, right? To me, this is an example of how Leo Messi uses his aura or his fear factor and almost manipulates the way that people get attracted to him. He's very good at not just thinking, all right, I'm going to try and dribble past all of you. He's very good at using that to his advantage to set up chances for teammates. I mean, literally in this case, assist to Coutinho.
Agreed, 100%. The other thing that I think is key about this is that he never stops. And I think that's another underrated aspect of Messi's game, is he plays this ball into Coutinho. Everybody who's been bypassed by this pass turns and recognizes, like, oh, I should maybe try to close it down. Obviously, they're not going to be able to because Coutinho takes it first time. But as everyone is turning and trying to make a play on Coutinho, Messi, only very briefly, because obviously this ball is being hit and obviously it's going on frame, he does a quick 3 steps towards the goal. And to me, that just stood out because he is very much going to frame. He is not stopping to watch his pass.
You're saying as Coutinho hits it,
he's not sort of ruminating on how good he is at finding assists.
he leaves that to us.
Yeah, exactly. He's trying to make plays happen. Yep. And more on that for the second goal. But I would say the other one that Messi is so good. This is such a weird way to put it, but I always think he's up to something. That at one point he just casually lifted the ball over a Sevilla defender, and it didn't really go to anybody else on Barcelona. And with another player, it would have been oh, he just did a needless trick. But when it's Messi, it's what's he up to? What are you doing? You're clearly doing something. You're setting them up. You're going to make them think you're going to do the lift next time, but then you're going to dribble around them. I'm into your games.
You're measuring him like you're a snake.
Exactly. He knows things. He's always up to something, Daryl. He's always up to something.
Should we talk about that second goal?
Let's do it.
So that second goal, unfortunately, some of the blame has to go to Ever Banega,
yes,
who stumbles twice in midfield.
Yeah,
I mean, fair to say?
it's because
Sevilla central midfielder, Messi's international teammate, Ever Banega.
The thing that really stood out to me about this one is that it starts with a Barcelona free kick from deep in their own territory because Sevilla were offside. It's a long ball played up. They didn't do this very often, but in this sequence, they play it towards midfield. Simon Kjaer beats Luis Suarez in the air,
as he did often whenever Barcelona were forced into a long ball. Kjaer was winning that header,
and then Kjaer wins that header. Over Suarez, the next Barcelona player to touch the ball is Luis Suarez because Sevilla miscontrolled the ball, I believe 4 times between 3 players, so that it Suarez does. I mean, he moves. Don't get me wrong, he moves to get to that ball, but it's not like Luis Suarez is hounding people down and wins the ball back. He's sort of standing there, and then it's oh, are you guys just going to completely miscontrol this several times? Okay, great, thanks.
Was Banega drunk? Did he just lose his footing?
I'm going to guess I think there's the slip, but then I think he's panicking to get back up and try to make a play. But I think there's also, as is so often the case for people playing Barcelona, the diffusion of responsibility of this person's going to cover me, so I don't. Oh well, I made a bad touch. Oh, but then that person made a bad touch. But then this person's going to cover, and then it ends up just being no one really taking responsibility. except for Luis Suarez.
Yeah, and what Suarez does is hit a beautiful. We need a word for this, but it's I think it's a very Suarez-y thing. A volley pass.
Yep.
Right? It's like it's almost like a strike, but it's a through ball for Messi to run onto. And it's in the gap between, I've forgotten the left back's name. It's in my notes somewhere. He says, biding his time. Arana is the left back. I think is starting to cheat up the field because he thinks Banega's going to win that ball back, right?
Well, I think everybody is. That's the other key thing here is that everybody on the field, for the most part, it seems, assumes, Sevilla will keep control.
Yeah, because Banega always wins that ball usually, right?
One of the only players who I saw who didn't have that reaction was Leo Messi. When that ball is bouncing free and it looks like maybe it's not going to be controlled, it's even before Suarez has gotten to it, it's before Suarez is playing that ball, Messi is already starting to move forward.
This is part of the Messi always moving, always going for a thing. That's why he tends to appear in attacking positions, is because he anticipates everything.
Yeah.
Even, I was seeing things that don't happen, right? Because there's another version of this play where Banega does win the ball. Messi makes that run for no reason, right?
Yeah.
It's basically he's willing to make that run even if it's eventually for no reason.
That's the key thing, right? And like it's a strange thing because it's like if it doesn't come off, who cares? Like it doesn't really matter. Like he's expended a little bit of energy, but it's not as though Barcelona are dependent upon Leo Messi getting back and providing defensive cover. Like that's not going to be a thing. So almost that freedom allows him to try different stuff. Again, it feels like he's always trying stuff. He's always up to something.
Yep.
And in this sequence, it ends up being the right thing because he's off to the races as soon as he gets that ball.
And then, so we've talked about Simon Kjaer and Carrico, the right centre-back. The left centre-back, Sergio Gomez, this is his moment. I think he kind of sees what's coming. I think he knows that if Arana goes high, then he needs to cover a bit more for him. But what Sergio Gomez does is drop very deep. Like he's deeper than all his teammates in a way that I don't think he needs to be at all. And it just gives Messi far too much of a run-up to run at him, basically, right? And then Gomez tries to angle Messi to the outside, like try and force him to the outside away from goal. But Gomez is insistent on maintaining that angle even as Messi has cut inside and gone away from him.
Yeah,
I weirdly felt bad for him.
I definitely did because I think like this could be... and not that I would do any better, not that most people would do any better against Leo Messi, but like this could be textbook what not to do when defending 1v1 because he definitely is trying to force Messi outside onto Messi's right foot. He doesn't want him cutting inside, shooting with his left foot as we've seen him do.
You've seen him play before.
So many times, right? But all he does is shape, as you said, to force him outside. But he doesn't really even like take the angle that forces Messi to do that. He just sort of is like, haha, I've set up so that you must dribble this way. And then Messi dribbles behind him. But then I think it's also the case that he doesn't want to get to that ball. He doesn't want to be the one to really put the pressure on Messi. And it has that vibe of, as long as I stand him up, he'll have to pass the ball or somebody else will come in and then it's not my responsibility. And it does feel like Leo Messi, time and time again, preys upon that I don't want to be the one to make a mistake mentality of defenders by scoring what I've now dubbed the Messi geometry finish.
Messi
because
geometry finish,
he knows his angles, he knows exactly how many goals have we seen him put into the far side netting. Like so many goals from that angle with that pace and finish. Just such a good goal from top to bottom.
Ironically, it's always a clean finish.
That is also
true. A clean geometry finish.
Poor Sergio Gomez.
So it seems the only way to stop Messi is to accidentally trick him into breaking his own
There
arm.
you go. Yep.
It's the only way to do it.
Yes. Did you find this whole sequence strange? Because it happens, I wrote it down, 15:51 is when he falls and clearly hurts the arm. He's not subbed off until the 26th minute. And it felt like they were going to do everything in their power to get Messi back on the field. And this feels like one of those ones, we've talked about it, I think once, like somebody played 10 minutes without Didier Drogba. It might have been Montreal, like waiting to see if he could get back on the field. And there is that line when you have to stop waiting for the good player. Obviously, Sevilla didn't take advantage. They didn't score 2 goals or anything like that. But it was just still, I think the commentators in my feed were saying, like, he's in a ton of pain. He clearly can't move.
Yeah.
Why are you still trying to make this happen?
I'm really surprised. Like, they wrapped it up and as if they were thinking we could send him back on with this. It turns out to be a fracture.
Quit trying to make fracture happen? There we go.
Quit trying to make fracture unhappen.
Yeah, there you go.
I think. Yeah, so how did this play come about? In my head, he nutmegs a defender, and then I think someone like essentially screens Messi so that he can't get to his own nutmeg, and then Messi just falls. Right? It's not even a bad. It's a screen, so maybe there's a free kick for the screen, but there's no horrible push or anything like that, right? And it's just Messi lands.
It's just the angle and the force he comes down. Yeah,
like I think 99 times out of 100, he just lands on his hands and gets straight back up.
Yeah. I think if you watch that replay, which I would not advise watching, it's very clear that he's broken his arm when you watch it. I mean, that thing bows pretty considerably.
Yeah, it goes the wrong way.
Yes, and I feel like we were maybe a few more force units. I don't know what that would be. We were a few more like away from it being a full Theismann, a full compound fracture, because it did have that almost that level of bow to it without like the obvious break.
Yeah, it was all wrong.
Yeah, and then just the amount of pain he was in, the fact that even when it was wrapped up fully and immobilized, he was still just laying on the ground, not trying to move. And you could see the trainer being like, maybe I fixed it? Maybe you keep playing? No? Okay. So then
I'm just a regular doctor.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not a magician.
I'm not Dr. Beverly Crusher.
Fix yourself. Nicely done. Nicely done. But
so, Ousmane Dembele.
That's the thing. Yeah. Ousmane Dembele comes on.
It really felt like this was set up for Dembele to, 2-0 up, like go at them. And he kind of did go at them, but he didn't combine. And I really feel like he actually, even though he's on the field for a win, he hurt his chances of starting the next Barcelona game.
And he did.
Especially because it's Clásico.
Yeah. We'll see. There's already tons of people claiming exclusive reports that Messi will play the Clásico. We'll wait and see.
He absolutely should not. This would be like Mohamed Salah playing the World Cup.
Hey, man, whatever.
Not needed.
Just a forearm. If it's just a forearm, you cast that thing up, you're good to go.
It's still good. It's still good.
You don't need arms. You're not even allowed to use them in soccer. It's fine. But I think I spent so long talking about Messi sort of making these decisions and sort of being on that other level for so long because it stands in stark contrast to Ousmane Dembele, who I felt like was a very reactive player and certainly was willing to try stuff and go at people. But I think you could just see time and time again these little poorly made decisions, or just like maybe just being a little bit too slow to step or too slow to go at somebody or too slow to pass. It was a massive difference within what Barcelona were trying to do from what they were doing when Leo Messi's on the field.
The weird thing is, to me, there's nothing technically wrong with anything Ousmane Dembele was doing. It was almost like he just wasn't in sync the way that Messi is in sync with Suarez and Coutinho and Artur and Busquets and everybody else. It's just that the problem is just that he's not Leo Messi, right? Which is way too high of a bar to put on a very young, very talented player.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And like the best way I can explain it again is that if you have Leo Messi in that role and you are Jordi Alba making like an overlapping run or something like that, you might, or Semedo, whomever, you might think, okay, there's a ball into his feet. It's going to be a two-touch layoff, at most two touches. Maybe it's one touch, so I'm going to make that sprint in so that he'll play it off to me, then I'll have the whole channel. And so if you've made that run, but it's Dembele, and instead of one, maybe two touches, it's two, maybe four touches, by the time that ball comes, you've already overrun it by 20 yards. And again,
and the whole machine breaks down.
And you look like the one who's like, oh, how do you not know to hold your run until that ball's on? But the answer is because you've anticipated Leo Messi playing that ball, and instead Dembele slid it down just a little bit, but that just a little bit can make all the difference.
And it nearly made all the difference for Sevilla getting back into this game, right? There's one where Dembele dribbles a little too much, gets tackled, Sevilla break down the right, and I think it's Navas crosses, and Jordi Alba sort of jumps in it. He does a DeAndre Yedlin, and it hits Alba in the arm.
It is definitely
I think
the Yedlin,
it should have been a
way.
penalty kick.
It definitely should have been. He had no idea where it was. It was the arm behind him as well when he jumps. So yeah, I mean, it's even if he doesn't mean to, the arms are in an unnatural position. They're up. He hits it with his hand. It definitely should have been a penalty. And
I believe there's a Sevilla goal later on that also starts with Dembele giving the ball away.
The second
I feel
Sevilla
bad picking
goal,
on him, but it did happen.
The second Sevilla goal, it's fine. Muriel's goal in the 91st minute, which at that point it's 4-2. It's always going to be very unlikely that Sevilla come back.
Yeah.
But it is Dembele kind of ponderously dribbling forward.
Ponderous is a good word.
Then he gets tackled. Sevilla come right back down. I think it's two passes, three players, balls in the back of the net. And the telling thing for me was that it would have been easy to blame it on Semedo because he doesn't quite close the gap on Muriel. The reason why is because he's made that overlapping run and the ball hasn't come.
Yeah.
Then he sprints back. And I think if you were going with the posterized who is doing what in the snapshot of when the goal is scored, it looks like it's Semedo's fault. The telling thing for me is that Jordi Alba, as soon as that ball goes in, everybody else sort of looks like, that shouldn't have happened. Jordi Alba is screaming up the field. I watched this a bunch of times. There's no one else you could be screaming at but Ousmane Dembele. And it's clearly, why would you give the ball away there? Why would you let them transition on us? And it just felt, for all the world, like maybe Ousmane Dembele had an idea of what he wanted to do, and didn't quite execute and didn't quite raise his stock at all in this game.
One man who raised his stock with me and possibly with Yogi Löw is Ter Stegen, the German goalkeeper for Barcelona. He had not one, but two double saves.
Yes, he did.
Really, that great thing where you get up high, make a save with your palm, get down, and you pop up, and you're ready for the rebound. He had a great save on a silver header, and then I can't remember who got the rebound. Vasquez, he was up and out. It might have hit him in the hip or something, but he just
hits him in the left thigh. I watched this one a bunch because the commentator made a comment about they work so much with balls that when they get up, you expect them to make a save or something like that. And I was like, does he think it hit him in a certain place on this one? Is that what he was doing with this comment?
I think what he meant is there's that practice drill, right, where you make a save, hit the floor, pop up to make the next save. I think that's just a thing that keepers, any good keeper works on that relentlessly, right?
But I think it was enough that it felt like a double entendre of you work on making that save, then popping up to deal with the balls. And I was just pop, But no, it was left thigh. It was definitely left thigh for the save on Vasquez.
Anything else you want to add about this game?
Yeah, I think aside from Ter Stegen being good, the other thing that I really appreciated about as a good goalkeeper making big saves was that he was really focused on playing the ball short. And there's the one that I think will make the highlight reel from this game. Certainly is.
I'll guarantee this is on Reddit.
It's a goal kick played to Sergio Busquets, and he basically has two players marking him, two players behind, and he's able to basically with a feint and a turn bypass all four of those players. That's very impressive.
It's a weird one touch, rotate and receive and pass the ball, and he splits everybody.
Yeah,
because Sevilla really did. Whenever there's a Barca goal kick, they sent a lot of people forward, and I think the idea was make it impossible for them to take a goal kick short, make them kick it long. Simon Kjaer's gonna win the header, and we're all good, right? We'll get possession back. But I think this is when Messi was on the field, so Barcelona were a bit more confident. But this was definitely a moment of Barcelona saying, "You can try that. We've got Sergio Busquets."
Yeah, well, that's definitely true. But the thing that it said to me was that it's not just Barcelona want to play the ball short. Barcelona want to keep possession. It was that Barcelona are going to do that, and they have patterns of play and sequences that allow them to do that. I felt like this was a play they had drawn up, that Busquets knew exactly how to step.
So it's not just magic from Busquets, it's a thing they've worked on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so then what I found myself wondering, and this is a weird, I guess this is probably very obvious, but to me it never has been. I just always go with, they like playing short. They want to keep the ball. That's it. And so that's why you would play short. And what never occurred to me until this game was that if you pull everybody forward, if you have Sevilla trying to mark everybody around the 18, suddenly they've got 4 and 5 players committed. If you have Busquets turn, if one of these design pieces works and you're able to turn, you've cut out half of Sevilla's team. And now you can counterattack against 5 players with maybe 5 or 6 or 7 of your own players.
Yeah.
And so just having those sequences, having those patterns, having those plans really makes all the difference when you have the technical ability, a.k.a. Sergio Busquets, to able to execute those plans.
I was also impressed with, obviously, Busquets' midfield partner, Rakitic, had that great volley and then no celebration. He took it nice and low. That's worth watching, right?
Yeah.
That's the one that killed the game. I was really impressed with Artur. Did you pay attention to him during this game?
I bet I can pick the moment that you were like, yes, my son.
What is it?
Was it the one where he kind of dribbles into his own penalty box and then turns and plays a roughly no-look 30-yard pass between 2 players that launches a counterattack?
That's the one.
Yep.
What I love about Artur is the determination to keep possession, which means sometimes that means dribbling out of pressure and just playing backwards. He always makes sure. The reason they compare him to Xavi, I think successfully so, is that he's just always determined to keep possession. But he doesn't. It's safe, but it's not always the most boring safe option. Sometimes it's a pass that no one else has seen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So sometimes it's a surprise pass. So he's either going to take the safe option and keep the ball or make a surprise pass and complete it and keep the ball.
Yeah.
Either way, you're not getting the ball and sometimes you're in trouble.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, and he's one who I definitely can't say that I was as familiar with heading into this season. And just watching Artur a little bit more, just seeing how he makes the decisions he makes. I did enjoy there was one moment when but I enjoyed one where the commentators were like, he's really ingratiated himself with the Camp Nou faithful, and then he never puts a foot wrong, and then he proceeds to pass the ball straight out of bounds. So I was like, commentator jinxes. Really quickly on the Rakitic goal, I did want to say, not to keep driving home this point, but I will. The reason why that ball bounces loose to Ivan Rakitic Rakitic is because Ousmane Dembele has tried to force through a pass for Coutinho. It's a very obvious one.
Leave Ousmane alone.
He telegraphs it gets cut out, and so the defender makes a play on the ball, and it's that play that deflects and spills to Rakitic, then he hits the volley first time.
Okay.
So even though Dembele's involved in that one, again, it sort of is like telegraphing a pass, sets up a beautiful goal.
So 4-2 to Barcelona.
Yep.
They are now top of La Liga. Up there with the likes of Espanyol and Alaves. Really interesting start to the La Liga season, which includes Real Madrid losing again 2-1 to Levante this week. At time of recording, Lopetegui has not been fired.
It feels like there's a chance he's been fired while we've been recording.
You think? Okay,
yes.
we'll check.
Was that what you were about to ask me? I'm sorry.
I wasn't going to ask you to check. I'm just saying, I was going to ask you, do you think he'll still be in charge for El Clasico? Because he always wanted the Real Madrid job, right? Part of the Real Madrid job is, El Clasico. It's one of the major parts of the season.
I thought about this a lot because it feels for all the world like they're going to continue to struggle and not turn it around in El Clasico. Mm-hmm. So in a weird way, maybe you do want him in charge because that is the ultimate, like, look, you lost to Barcelona, you haven't been winning, you got to go. But then the other side of that is if you bring in, say, Solari is one of the names that's been mooted as a temporary hire.
So he was the B team coach who would be promoted to the first team,
If you bring him in and he's your interim manager and you lose 3-0 to Barcelona in El Clasico,
it's a bad start,
that looks bad too. And then suddenly it's like, well, see, nobody can right this ship. So that's the only reason why I think he might still be there is because they're going to fire him inevitably, and it gives them another week to deal with Antonio Conte for Antonio Conte to get his situation with Chelsea resolved. Maybe they have some, feeler conversations with Jose Mourinho. Who knows?
I've heard that rumor.
Yeah.
Or Real Madrid win El Clasico, and it's the kickstart to Lopetegui turning the whole thing around. That's possible too, right? If he wins El Clasico 3-0, then I think he buys himself another couple of weeks, and maybe it's the beginning of something.
Are you buying stock in that theory?
I may buy stock in that.
You're buying stock, and then Lopetegui turns it around. Really?
I mean,
you can buy that real cheap right now.
Exactly. Well, that's good, right? You buy low, sell high.
Perfect.
Which leads us perfectly to, I don't know if you're doing this deliberately.
I wasn't, but I'm really happy I did.
Today's show is sponsored by Robinhood. Robinhood is an investing app that lets you buy and sell stocks, ETFs, options, and cryptocurrencies, all commission-free. They make financial services work for everyone, not just the wealthy. So the idea is that
they also apparently leak into my brain and influence the conversations I have. So that's good.
I honestly thought you were really good at your job, but turns out not.
There you go.
So Robinhood is an app where you can buy and sell stocks, and it makes it a lot easier, a lot less complicated. There are no commission fees. Other brokerages will charge you up to $10 for every trade.
Yep.
Robinhood does not do any of that. We can't give stock advice.
No.
We should not. But we can give soccer advice. So if you were buying stock in a soccer team...
Pacific Bell. I have stock in them. I don't think they're a company anymore. I believe they're owned by Verizon, I hope.
If you're going to buy stock in a soccer team, what would you buy this week? I might take a gamble and go Real Madrid and Lopetegui.
Why? Because they're so low?
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like given that they've secured their spot in the playoffs, their stock's going to continue to rise a little bit more. I would go DC United.
Hey!
Why not? Let's throw some DC United in there.
All right. So we didn't manage to watch this game in time for the weekend review, but DC United beat NYCFC 3-1.
In your face, Cooligans.
In your face, Cooligans. I'm going to celebrate by changing my 5 stars Cooligans review to 1 star.
That makes sense. That's how it works, right? If the team that you root for loses, it should affect your iTunes rating.
Absolutely.
Perfect.
That's only fair. We did have a recent review.
That's what I'm alluding to.
Let's not give that person any more oxygen.
All right.
But yeah, Cooligans, you're getting a 1-star review.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Just like your team, the defending on the Rooney goal early on, where you let Luciano Acosta dribble through and cut it back to Senor Wayne.
Yeah.
1-star defending.
Yeah, exactly. 1-star defending. They're only used to defending in an outfield, so that's the problem. That's the big problem.
They need the mound for reference.
Exactly.
So,
these are all original jokes.
Sorry, NYCFC fans.
And also, hand toss pizza is the best. All right, cool. Yeah, let's move on.
So you would buy stock in DC United.
Yeah.
Why so?
Because, as I said, so they've qualified for the playoffs. They do seem like they're on one of the hottest streaks in MLS. Mm-hmm. They've got the stadium. They've got Wayne Rooney. They've got all the infrastructure there. It feels like they're going to continue to go up. Decent. I think if they win their next game and results go their way, there's a decent chance they host the first playoff game.
Oh, interesting.
Which would be ideal for them.
Yeah, you need to get up to 4th, right, to host a playoff game.
Yeah, and I think they have won 1 game on the road this entire season, so I'm thinking they're definitely going to want to host that first game. So if they get that opportunity, then buy that stock because it seems like things are going their way.
If you want to buy actual stock, not just imaginary soccer stock, like we're saying, then Robinhood is the way to go because you'll sort of learn how to invest as you build your portfolio. Also, Robinhood is giving listeners a free stock like Apple, Ford, or Sprint. So I guess a famous company stock to help build your portfolio. You go to soccer.robinhood.com, soccer.robinhood.com, and you can start with a free stock and see what happens.
So thank you to Robinhood for sponsoring today's episode. Now, shall we move to Italy? Does that work for you, Mr. Grove?
I mean, I still want to live in Richmond, but let's talk about the Milan derby.
I mean, I would happily live in Milan. I'll say that. Yes, Inter Milan, AC Milan, Inter Milan hosting, even though, same city, whatever.
Yeah,
but
San Siro, at the San Siro.
The dramatic late winner for Inter Milan gives them all 3 points, makes AC Milan sad, maybe makes some other people sad aside from AC Milan generally, but more on that in a moment.
And if you had just heard that this game finished 1-0 with a 92nd minute winner for Inter, who would you guess had scored it?
I mean, it's got to be Icardi. It's always Icardi.
You would
and
guess
it was
it'd
in
be
this
Mauro
game as well.
Icardi,
Yeah, certainly. And it was. And we watched this together. We watched this independently, trying to figure out how he does what he does and how he knows what he knows in relation to the goal. Because let's just jump right to it. In this goal.
Yeah, okay.
Because I'm jumping to the big
let's go. I mean,
moment.
honestly, this was it was an engrossing game.
It was.
But there were 2 offside goals that were very similar.
Yeah, 2 disallowed goals.
One for Inter, one for Milan when it's just flicked on, but the person was offside after they received the flick on.
It's like, it was weird, like mirror image offside goals, But
aside from that, no major chances. Milan were
one crossbar, but that was definitely like more of a scrappy situation, not a sustained pattern to play.
Milan especially, despite being in their own stadium, were quite willing to accept a draw. I think like 20 minutes from the end, you could see them no longer really attacking, no longer taking any risks.
I mean,
Gattuso running out the clock with some subs.
Yeah, when they sub on Abate, the commentators were like, oh, this is like definitely a substitution designed to just drain a few more seconds off the clock, and you could see it with how slow they were to make that substitution.
Yep, not to make this game sound boring, but you know what I mean. It was very engrossing without a bunch of chances.
I mean, it's what happens. It's what happens in games like this. It's an emotional derby where nobody wants to be at fault.
That's why it was engrossing. Emotions were high.
Yeah, absolutely. Until the final minute, the final few seconds, and it's first of all, should we talk about this ball?
Yeah, let's talk about this ball. It's Vecino swings a cross in that Icardi gets to.
Yes.
I think the important thing is when I watched this the first time, Musacchio, the defender with Icardi, he kind of like steps towards the ball, then gets lost and falls over. Mm-hmm. You notice Donnarumma steps towards the ball, gets lost, tries to come back, not in time. And yet Icardi is the one that seems to know what he's doing and finishes it. But on the rewatch, I think this ball fools everybody.
Yeah, I agree. I agree completely. Because the way I've seen this goal covered, the way like the discussion has been about, Icardi's movement and how he's constantly moving. And he is. Don't get me wrong. Mm-hmm. In the 15 seconds before, he's shifting, he's moving, he's drifting from one center back to the other. He's trying to find space. And then, as you said, even in this goal, it's near post, then gets to the far post for that header.
And I thought that was what fooled Musacchio and made Musacchio, the centre-back, fall over.
Yeah.
But it's not, is it?
It's not.
It's just the ball.
I think it's the ball. It's a very weird, almost no-look ball from Vecino because he's got his head down, he's on the end line, he's got a defender there. And it
Romagnoli's trying to... I mean, I feel like Romagnoli has taken the right angle. There's no room to cross.
No.
Except there is. I'm confused.
Yeah, and this strangely isn't one of those moments where he's just kind of standing off, not wanting to make a mistake and gives that room for the cross. Mm-hmm. It feels like, I've got this done. It almost feels like the old school glitchy FIFA cross where you're facing the wrong way, but you hit the button and the player just turns around and crosses it like out of nowhere. And that's kind of what happens. So it's a no-look from the sideline cross in, but I think the thing that you spotted is that it's the bend and the overall trajectory that really throws everybody off.
Yeah, so it looks like it's sort of just floating near post. It doesn't bend until quite late, right? And that's what throws Donnarumma, who's come out to try and catch it, then realises that is not happening. Yep. It throws Musacchio, who's come out to try and maybe head it, then he realises that's not happening. Even Icardi's near post run, I don't think is a trick. I think he thinks he's trying to meet the ball. And I think the best thing you can say about Icardi here, or the most complimentary thing, is he's the first to react of all three. The ball falls all three of them. Icardi reacts first.
And that it's not even like the best thing you can say. It is the genius of this goal.
Yeah, sorry, that's a better way of saying it.
Is that I think he just very quickly is like, maybe it's familiarity. They've done this in training. He knows where these balls tend to go. Oh, this is that type of ball that goes to the back post. I better shift my run. Maybe it's that simple. Maybe it is just that like next level awareness to just be able to change on the dime, and the like low center of gravity, muscle mass, whatever, to be able to change that quickly with that level of force and still win that header. It's an amazing awareness from McCarty, and it's a really good goal because even though it looks really simple and it looks like, oh, it's just like almost a tap-in header into a fairly open net, it's still all the work he does to read that ball and put himself in the position to make it a tap-in that's so impressive to me.
Do we have any concerns about Donnarumma?
Yes. I do, and I say that because he is one who I've been excited about since he made his debut. Again, we don't watch Serie A, and we certainly haven't watched Milan with enough regularity in the last couple seasons.
But I feel like we're going to as part of this weekend review business we're doing.
Yeah, well, but what I mean to say is like we watch them here and there, we watch highlights of them, we talk about them, but like I can't say I watch them every single game to know like, oh, Donnarumma is very good at this. Sometimes he struggles with this, but then you heard all the stories this summer or in summers past about him being linked with Madrid. And it kind of builds up this idea of like, oh yeah, he's definitely world class. He's definitely this next level goalkeeper, and he's so young. And that's all true. He's very young. He could still very much develop. But 3 different times in this game, he really struggled when it came to making decisions when the ball was in the air. And once he punches it, but he doesn't really punch it clear. One time he like gets to it at the near post and punches it, but doesn't really get it clear either. And I think maybe even puts it out for a corner when he didn't need to. And then there's this play as well when he misreads it. And it feels like in those moments when the ball's in the air, he still doesn't quite know his positioning and how he wants to command that box and how he wants to get the ball. Does he want to catch it? Does he want to punch it? Does he kind of want to like slap it palms clear? Because he did that a couple times too. And it made me...
No one should want to do that.
Nobody should. But just given how big he is, like... I was just surprised by how indecisive he looked at times.
Yeah. He looks like the type of goalkeeper that just comes and claims everything. Yeah.
I mean, he looked bigger than both of the Milan center backs, and that's saying something because they're Milan center backs.
Okay, the other thing that stood out to me, it actually stood out to you in this game, and you showed me when we came to the office, was the Nainggolan-Biglia collision in the first half. Right? It ends with Nainggolan leaving the field 10 minutes or so later. I think it's a weird thing where they both fouled each other.
Yep.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's Biglia definitely coming in reckless.
Biglia, for those who don't know where Biglia is the defensive midfielder for Milan. He was the one in the 4-1-4.
Yeah, and I think as this one happened, the commentators described it as 2 midfielders, neither of whom is inclined to pull out of a challenge.
Yep.
But Biglia comes in.
Some make extra challenges within the challenges.
There we go. Biglia comes in, well said, because Bilia's slide, I think, is the reckless challenge, probably would have gotten a yellow. And I think Nainggolan... I think genuinely there's maybe just a half-second moment of red mist where he sort of is like, oh, you're going to slide tackle me from the side aggressively? Well, here's your knee.
Yeah.
And I think
I'm going to stamp on it.
The very last replay of the incident, there's 3 replays, then there's a break, then there's one more replay, then there's a break, then I think there's 2 more replays, and the very last one is from almost midfield from the sideline, looking straight down the midfield line. And you can see Nainggolan running, and it definitely looks to me, the ball is rolling straight forward. It's not off to the side, so he doesn't really need to be moving his foot in this direction. But it absolutely looks like if he's running in a straight line, that left foot then moves about a yard over to step on Biglia.
Definitely. There's no other reason to put your foot there. But Alanis Morissette would have loved this tackle because Nainggolan was not going to get injured from the Biglia tackle, I don't think. But by making that move to stamp on Biglia as he comes through, I think Nainggolan rolls his ankle.
He definitely does. Yeah.
So he really did it to himself.
Yeah, and I think that's where you can see him then sort of react with the over-the-top level of, this is such an injustice because I've hurt myself, but I want it to be someone else's fault. I mean, it's still a reckless tackle from Biglia, don't get me wrong.
No, but it could have just been a reckless tackle that he clattered into Nainggolan and then everybody carries on. Maybe Biglia gets a yellow card.
Yeah, and instead he rolls that ankle, and then I think, 10 minutes later or so?
He hobbles around.
As you said, he hobbles around, but then there's another little bit of contact from Biglia. We don't think it's anything malicious. It seems to be just kind of coincidental that it's Biglia again.
Yep.
But either way, I think basically as he's running, Bilia's there, and there's a little bit of contact on Nainggolan's left foot, and that lands him to land awkwardly on that left ankle again as he's running.
Maybe Biglia knew exactly which bit just needed pushing to to put it over the edge.
Yeah. But I've definitely had that where it feels kind of sprained, and you're like, I probably shouldn't play, but I'll try out on a little bit more, and then you just land slightly awkwardly, and it really exacerbates the pain.
He went home, opened his kitchen drawer, 10,000 spoons.
There we go.
All right. So
I do have one more thing to say.
Oh yeah, go for it.
I wrote this down very late last night, so maybe this won't make sense. But
I'm looking forward
watching
to this.
Timu Bakayoko, what I wrote was, this is what people feel like when Man United signs their favorite player, isn't it? Because it was just watching this guy who we saw be so dominant in the midfield for Monaco. Like I thought for all the world he was going to be the next big thing. Mm-hmm. I thought he was going to be this like destroying midfielder. I wanted Man United to sign him so badly. I was very jealous when Chelsea did. And to see him sub on for those final like 6 or 7 minutes and how tentative he looked. And like even from the start, he subs in on a Milan corner and he gets bodied off the ball, but it's retaken because the referee like had been dealing with some infraction. So it's retaken and he gets bodied again. Like he just gets shoved out of the play. And from there, he's just kind of every single time you can see him just not wanting to make a mistake. I call it shoulders up. Like he's got the shoulders up. You can just tell he's uncomfortable. And really it was to see a player go from just this midfield destroyer to this midfield being destroyer.
Yeah.
I didn't mean for that to happen. I'm sorry.
I enjoyed it.
It was very surprising to me because we had heard reports. We got a few scouting reports about how he's been struggling and how he's looked a shell of his former self. And these 6 minutes really, really emphasized that.
His confidence was shot.
Yep.
But I would say, in contrast, Frank Kessié, who Bakayoko replaced, looked like the destroyer in midfield. He looked super strong. He looked very calm on the ball. Frank the Tank. He really did look like a tank a few times. He would charge through, roll over people. But it's again, Gattuso, I don't think needed to make that sub, right? Kessié didn't want to come out.
Nope.
Kessié was doing great in midfield.
Yep.
Replacing him with Bakayoko when the scores are literally level, and then again, replacing the right back later on, it just felt like those are subs that did not need to happen. And in an attempt to run the clock down, I feel like Gattuso slowly but surely weakened his team.
Yeah, the only thing I can say is that I can't remember if it was Kessié or Biglia, or maybe it was Biglia when like that injury like happened with Nangolan, or maybe it was Kessié took one. Bakayoko, it looked for all the world like he was about to come in the first 15 minutes or so. And all I can think is maybe...
He was going to be the Biglia sub, I think.
Yeah. And maybe Gattuso just thought like, oh, I got his hopes up. I want to get him a few minutes, otherwise that could look bad. It could look like, oh, he was definitely going to come on.
That was an hour ago.
Then he didn't play. Yeah. I don't know. So maybe it was just kill the game a little bit, put Bakayoko in. Bakayoko's been explicitly told, don't make any mistakes, don't do anything stupid. Kind of does something stupid because he gives the ball away. He megs himself and then gets a yellow card in breaking up the counterattack.
Oh, I feel he's just one of those players that has just lost his confidence and needs to find it again. And it's very hard to find it in professional football because everyone else is really good.
But this is but this was the Man United connection for me because I remember him, what he did for Monaco, and seeing him here was just like, what? And I think about like a Dortmund fan watching Mkhitaryan when he was still playing for United and just being like, that's not what he was. What have you done to him?
What did you do to him? Yeah. All right, should we move elsewhere? What else caught your eye really quickly this weekend, Tyler?
I would say Tim Reams. A horror show is a word.
I haven't seen it, but I know Fulham lost 4-2 to Neil Warnock's Cardiff City.
First of all, speaking of that, Neil Warnock, when Cardiff City scored their first goal, it cuts to him like it does the usual thing where it's like goal, like replay of the goal, replay of the goal, replay of the goal, replay of the celebration, and then replay of the manager celebrating. And it's just Neil Warnock angrily muttering curses, very clearly, just like, and then he gets happier and happier and happier with each goal. But yeah, I mean, Tim Ream, I think for the Cardiff's third goal, he really felt like he fails to react quickly and essentially gets megged, and that's what allows the ball to squirt through. Excuse me, that's for the second goal. For the third goal, he fails to intercept a cross. For the fourth goal, he tries to do a move at midfield, like he's dribbling away, tries to do a move, slips and falls, leads to a Cardiff counterattack. He gets back in position to defend, and then the low-driven cross megs him for the fourth goal. Oh. And on top of that, he definitely handballed the ball in the box, and that wasn't given, so it could have been another one and a penalty for Tim Ream. So a rough game for him across the board.
I want to give an opinion without having seen the game.
That it probably wasn't his fault?
That it probably wasn't all his fault.
No.
I bet, based on what I've seen of Fulham, they're going to be way too open, and Tim Ream is massively exposed, and maybe not succeeding in those circumstances, but not put in a circumstance to succeed.
No, definitely not. Because like the one I said where he sort of like miscalculates and probably should have done better, it really is a Fulham player getting the ball, I forget who it was, but trying to clear it, and like first tries to dribble out, pulls in 3 Cardiff players, then he's like, all right, well, I'll just clear it, and kicks it straight into a Cardiff player, goes off the Cardiff player, and then that's where Tim Ream is like, and like can't react to it in time. But it's definitely his Fulham teammates not helping him, certainly.
Fulham still look to me like the most enjoyable team to watch to ever be relegated.
Yep. That sounds about right. Cardiff now out of the relegation zone, so there's that.
We'll see how long that lasts.
Yeah, that's fair.
Elsewhere, Borussia Dortmund went away to Stuttgart. Pulisic did not start. Jadon Sancho did. Jadon Sancho scored. Dortmund won 4-0. They are still top of the Bundesliga. I think they're 4 points clear. Pulisic came off the bench, played 25 minutes, got himself an assist. So I think, coming back from injury, all is still good. Christian Pulisic is part of a team that's top of the Bundesliga. And that's worth thinking about.
And he's producing. That's the other thing,
producing,
right?
yeah.
Have we seen him
spells.
play 90 minutes all the time and not get his name on the score sheet or get the assist? So it's nice to see him having those concrete numbers to back up the performances.
And I would say no one needs to worry just because he's not starting, because he's coming back from injury and he's up against Sancho and Jakob Brun-Larsen.
I'm always worried about Pulisic.
Pulisic can get that spot
always.
back.
It's a healthy dose of paranoia and fear.
We should maybe be worried about Schalke.
Yeah.
Schalke lost 2-0 at home to Bremen. Weston McKennie started as basically the second striker, or the number 10 in a 4-4-1-1. He was underneath Bergstaller. They lost 2-0 at home to Bremen. Schalke are now 16th out of 18 in the Bundesliga. If the season ended today, they would be the relegation playoff.
But if you flip it around, they're top.
Three.
There we go, man.
But that's not how the league works. So I haven't seen enough of McKennie's performance to know if he was terrible or respectable in that weird attacking midfield role. But I know it didn't produce any goals or assists. So
does it feel like
that's one way of reading the
result? Do you think there's a chance Domenico Tedesco listens to our show and is like, "Oh, you wanted to be a number 6, do you?" Well, guess what? He's a number 10 now. In fact, he's a number 9.
I think Domenico Tedesco just constantly changes the shape of the team, and because Weston McKennie can play multiple positions, he gets bumped around all over the place.
Yeah.
He's played right back, he's played right centre back, he's played deepest midfield, he's played number 8, and now he's played number 10.
Yeah, connecting it with our sponsor from today, I'm not sure I would buy stock in Tedesco right now because I haven't heard any rumblings about him being fired or anything like that. But one of the familiar symptoms, the most familiar symptom of a manager who might soon be getting their P45, is that what it is?
If it's in England, yeah.
There you go.
I don't know what the German equivalent is.
Yeah, I always think of that as a fighter plane too. So that's the other thing. Is their walking orders or marching orders? Is just constantly rotating and changing, and every week it's like, okay, well now he's a number 8. Okay, now he's a number 10. Now this guy's a number 7. Okay, now he's a number 6. And if you're constantly moving everybody around, it speaks to not having any confidence in what you think is your team's best shape and formation and lineup.
Okay, anything else catch your eye before we wrap up?
Yeah, Minnesota, don't poke the bear. What are you doing? What are you doing? LA Galaxy had to win this game to remain alive in the playoffs. Still like a faint glimmer that they'll make the playoffs, but they poked the already motivated bear because Zlatan doesn't like playing on turf, went to Minnesota, made the comments about people are coming to see me, so I will let them see me or whatever. And then, I think you retweeted this, the starting lineups come out, and they have the player tiles or whatever, the player images.
On the big screen.
Yeah, and it's everybody there, and then it cuts to Zlatan Ibrahimovic, and it just says photo not found. And while that's funny and tongue-in-cheek, and I get it, it still is the type of thing that Zlatan is going to see and actually take offense to because he is Zlatan, and how dare you not show the photo of Zlatan.
And then don't do that and have Boxall mark him.
No. Well,
all respect to Boxall, but Zlatan kind of loses him easily and just nods that ball in.
Literally the first time he gets the ball, he receives it, I think it's a forced turnover. Darwin Quintero comes sprinting to close him down. He mags Darwin Quintero. That's the first thing he does. That sets the pattern. He scores a goal in the 30th minute. It's a great ball from, I think, Leggett. I could be wrong on that one.
It is Leggett. He has about 5 goes at crossing the ball, but it's a cross from Leggett.
And it's and that's the brilliance of Zlatan, is in all those crosses, he is marked. And then I think, but what's happening is that the Minnesota line is trying to keep him away from the goal as much as they can. So they're trying to keep a high line. Zlatan is staying offside. And as all of those failed crosses happen, they all drop in, and Zlatan just drops to the back post, and nobody is aware that he's there. You should probably be aware of Zlatan. But then he has a great ball for Ola Kamara with Boxall clearing off the line. Then he has the great ball for Alessandrini, who hits that first-time volley for the lovely third goal. But it just felt for all the world like Zlatan was sort of already motivated, and then that final little image not found was enough for him to be like, you know what? You guys are in trouble.
I'll give you an image to remember.
Yep.
Well, at least Minnesota can look to happier days at the new stadium.
Yeah. That checks out. So it's still you've got Galaxy and I think RSL vying for the final spot in the West. In the East, you've got Montreal and Columbus, Columbus really struggling is the very obvious way to put it.
All right, so sooner Columbus don't make the playoffs, the sooner we have a U.S. men's national team coach?
Maybe? I'm not sure.
But then we get him in weird circumstances, right?
We certainly do. So right now, Columbus, 1 game remaining, home to Minnesota. Columbus on 48 points. Montreal away to New England. Montreal on 46 points. But the Crew lost 2-1 at Orlando this weekend. Orlando, who do not win, played in front of a basically empty stadium. 2-1, both goals were penalties. Both goals needlessly conceded penalties, stupid decisions. One from Sorrow, one from Will Trapp. He came over to try to double team with Valenzuela, and Mueller is basically, his foot gets stuck. He's trying to turn and he's stuck, and they both go to close him down, and then he regains his footing and they both just clatter into him basically, and it's 2 penalties. So the Crew in very bad form. All that is to say, yeah, I don't know if that's the best time to sign Greg Berhalter. I really think maybe this isn't what U.S. soccer we're hoping for.
Oh dear.
But it seems very likely still that they will get some sort of result because the Crew are very good at home. Montreal's record on the road, not very good. So the Crew sneak into the playoffs. Then we'll see what happens.
Permanent home.
Yeah.
Permanent home. All right, shall we wrap it up there?
I think we should.
All right, let's say the rest of this week, it's worth letting people know that you've got family coming to town. I'm going out of town, so we won't be able to cover the Champions League games this week, unfortunately. But we still will have content for you. We are going to record some listener question shows and a personal show where we've essentially put out an Ask Us Anything.
Yep.
We have loads of questions already. We're not going to ask for any more because we are ready to go. It's going to be one of those self-indulgent shows that's all about us because we've never done it before. So 2 listener question shows and 1 Taylor self-indulgent show to come this week. Taylor Rockwell, thank you for taking the time to talk to me today.
Yeah, you've been fun. Right back at you, buddy.
Listeners, thank you for listening, and we will talk to you again tomorrow.